Hey folks, welcome to another custom lesson. This time I'm indulging the request from Ibadss, who wanted to see Kusarigama with fists using the Soul Core's Onryoki, Giant Toad, whatever, on either O or Ho. I'm probably butchering the names. And then the enemy I'll fight later is White Tiger. Now, this specific player plays with purity weapons, but if you guys know me, I'm pretty lazy when it comes to gear stuff because I don't want to have that really be a consideration. At least a major requirement. If there's extra things, sure. So I'm just using my usual corrupted weapons with life drain and active skill, key damage, melee key consumption, yada yada yada. So it works for me, but this is quite antithetical to the main guardian spirit I picked, which is Ho-Oh. So Ho-Oh is a purity-based guardian spirit, so you'll definitely want to take advantage of using purity weapons because of things like purity accumulation, melee damage versus purified enemy. What's nice about this is you also have things like Calming Breath, which can help you regenerate health anytime you're pretty much out of combat. But even nicer is this attunement cost down here. 26 means you can get away with quite a lot. Now, with the weapons, fists, and Kusarigama, I was pretty deliberate about the soul cores that I chose. So let's start off from the very beginning, where I decided to use Yatsu-no-Kami. So with Yatsu-no-Kami, I found that this is a great core to use offensively. I mean, that much is obvious, but it's not just a core you use at range. It does help, but I find that it's great for re-engagement. So if I'm, let's say, far away for whatever reason, I can throw out Yatsu-no-Kami, re-engage with abilities like Reckless Charge with the fists or Deadly Mark from Kusarigama to really get back into the action. I would say this is a soul core you want to max its rank. I'm only using rank 4, so you can see kind of the baseline, my experience, what that is going to be. Reason being, you want to get that anima charge pretty high. Also, if you can get some yokai ability key pulse on one of these 3 cores, great. I just happen to have it on here, so alright, cool. Next up is Aberrant Soldier. Aberrant Soldier is a greatly underappreciated core in my opinion. This is probably the single core you should for sure get to soul rank 30. Reason being, these special effects are premium. Anima bonus Timely Guard allows you to turn some defensive play into an anima generator. So if you use Kusarigama's Masterful Guard, you can get additional anima, or if you just block and do it right, you get some anima. And there are many moments you'll find yourself just barely blocking and managing to timely guard something, and so you get anima. You'd be surprised. Also, if you're using things like Yatsu-no-Kami, which costs a lot of anima anyway, being able to get some anima back is great, so you definitely want to boost this up. The animation for Aberrant Soldier, you'll find that in practice it's a lot faster than what you see here. While the projectile speed that you're going to see here is fairly accurate, the recovery time can more or less be canceled with some input buffering, and it's a lot of fun, and I'll showcase that. Last but not least, we have Waira. So melee range is what fists and Kusarigama pretty much rely upon. Yes, the Kusarigama does have a bit of ranged elements involved, but you're going to be in the thick of it. So being able to have sort of a quasi-escape ability such as Waira can be really handy, and you can turn it to extra key damage pressure and potentially knockups on certain enemies. This is a core that should not be underestimated. While it does kind of compete in the similar category of disengages as Onryoki does, well, Onryoki does purity, and it doesn't nearly do as much key damage as, say, Waira does. Waira is a big power play, and while the startup time is a bit longer, the reward for being able to pull it off is huge. And also show you something kind of neat with it that you may not have realized. Now you may be wondering, where the heck are Onryoki and Giant Toad? A good question. Now the player had specifically stated that, hey, I run out of ki a lot and I just want to work well with it. Well, I figured, you know what? Why don't we turn that supposed negative into a positive? Damage bonus low key. So let's say instead of using Beyond Infinity because you don't like the timing element of it, you want to use Limitless. Boom, you get an extra damage boost on top of how powerful Limitless already is. So this can be really cool to turn that negative into a positive. Now, the Soul Cores Onryoki and Giant Toad were specifically requested. I would recommend you max Onryoki's rank simply because there are going to be many moments with these 2 Soul Cores in which you take damage, so turning that again into a positive with anima generation is great. Also, damage taken mid-attack gets greatly increased. I think it's like 15 or 20% or something crazy. So being able to reduce the amount of damage you take while you're attacking is awesome. And then get whatever special effects you want here. This is just one of the Onryokis I had. So yeah, yokai ability Key Pulse is great. Get that once per Guardian Spirits no matter what. Kodama Sensor is, yeah, it's just there. Onryoki's ability is actually faster than suggested in the tooltip here. It is really good for group clears. While Fist is good for really single targets, it can be a little difficult to work with multiple opponents. And so having, say, a quick sweep option to kind of get enemies away and do a good amount of damage is what Onryoki is known for. Next, of course, is Giant Toad. Get whatever special effects you want. I would advise that you get anima charge bonuses that complement the Guardian Spirit that you're using. So if you decide instead of using Atlas Bear to use, say, a Feral Spirit, then make sure it's not the same category. So don't have anima charge bonus or cumulative damage on Feral on your Soul Cores. It'll make sense if you have it on Brute though. So just some other generic anima generator will be great. And yeah, max that out if you'd like. Honestly, I just picked this because it's the Brute Giant Toad I had. Giant Toad is very difficult to use, but it's best used to hit enemies when they're very low on ki, specifically yokai enemies. I find this to be very effective at depleting maximum ki, not so much for stagger properties or really anything else. This has a lot of downtime, so you need to be very smart about when you use this. Now, the last Soul Core I decided to work with is actually Kappa. I don't see Kappa used too often, and I figured, hey, if you're playing tanky, why not just accentuate the tankiness even more? Now, one of the requirements in terms of special effects is that given that Atlas Bear has very low attunement compared to other things, you are going to want one of these 3 cores to have attunement cost -1. Feel free to get any anima generator you want on here, but yeah, attunement cost -1 is very important for this setup, so make sure you get that at the very least alongside yokai ability Key Pulse. I happen to have best of both worlds on this, so that was pretty nice. Kappa is pretty neat, and I'm going to showcase something you may not know about it. I'll talk about the Soul Cores now. So Kappa actually has 2 moments of stun. Very brief. So one is, let's see if I can showcase it. One is when he breaks it. Don't get grabbed, by the way. Damage will not get nullified. See that? He got briefly interrupted. So you can use it for that. Also, if you activate it and like the shell part hits the target, you can briefly interrupt them. So if a target's behind you, you can interrupt them and it can be pretty nice. But yeah, it's pretty wild. Come on, hit me, buddy. So yeah, it is pretty expensive. It costs 6 anima, so you are more or less going to be using this in an isolated sort of scenario. So you need to plan out when you're going to use it. If you're doing multiple enemy battles, feel free to use it. Onryoki, I find, you'll see it can work pretty well, but it really is, it can sometimes break horns, but really it is good for just hitting multiple enemies. It does a good amount of ki damage as well. Now let me show you Giant Toad in isolation. It does a pretty good amount of ki and max ki damage, but you can see I just got hit the entire time, so it feels kind of bad. So what you want to do is generally deplete an enemy's ki and use it to finish them off to get them into a grapple state. It has a very long animation and a very long recovery time, so you need to plan it accordingly. Alright, now let's work with the Phantom Cores. The Phantom Cores are going to feel, in my opinion, a bit more intuitive. So you can turn your blocks, your timely guards with, say, Kusarigama, or you're just blocking normally with the fists, into some anima generators. Aberrant Soldier is actually remarkably faster than you may associate it with. This is the full animation, but look how soon I can block. So you can buffer inputs, so it can be pretty wild. So yeah, it's your quick cancel core that's just straight up really valuable. And it costs very little anima too. Now when it comes to things like Yatsu-no-Kami, like I said, good for a pressure play, re-engage. It's super awesome. Need to peace out? Waira actually hits twice. First when you go down and when you come back up. But you gotta make sure you hit, you gotta be close range for the initial hit. It also knocks up enemies. Pretty handy. And let me showcase the knock property. Try to showcase everything. I think it really only works if they're low on ki. Yeah, but it's pretty awesome. And I'm sure you can imagine keeping them low on ki. It can be pretty silly if you work well with it. So yeah, you'll be in Phantom for the most part for a lot of fast play, a lot of crazy engages, re-engages, and then you'll be using Brute Spirits more for situational play. So it's meant to kind of round the whole toolkit. Your weapon, this will be really dependent on weapon play, but there are things you can use to facilitate yourself, such as Aberrant Soldier, Yatsu-no-Kami, and then of course there's some events of potential with Waira. Onryoki will be for just AoE sweeps, Giant Toad as a max ki damage punisher, Kappa to help you play defensively, which is pretty nice. So let's just showcase some Yokai Shift combos next before I get into mixing in the weapons together and just working with the whole package. Come on, let's get you out of ki. Alright, almost there. Alright, let's pop Yokai Shift. And now Atlas Bear is actually remarkable. Let me show why. So it can apply lightning, but it also has a slap, which staggers. It's pretty crazy. So you can use that stagger to set up a Kappa core, which is pretty awesome. Because activating Kappa can be a little awkward because you have to wait quite a while before you can act again. But having a safe moment to apply it after Atlas Bear can be pretty awesome. And then another cool combo with Atlas Bear is of course using Onryoki. Right after, let me deplete the ki. Alright, let me get a grapple, and then I will use Atlas Bear with Onryoki. It can be a pretty massive power play. So you can stagger them, and then you just smash them to bits. Giant Toad is something I would use if you are only really comfortable doing so. It can be pretty nice when it works, but given the long animation time, you need to be wary. But it is pretty cool to use when you are just about to run out of Yokai Shift, and then you just throw out Giant Toad and take advantage of the fact that you're effectively invulnerable the entire time during its animation. But if you have no gauge left to worry about, then just use Giant Toad. Now let's just showcase what you can do with Ho in its lovely form. Alright, come on, let's deplete that ki. Almost out. Excellent. Alright. So, with this Guardian Spirit, I like to do the following. And then use Yatsu-no-Kami. It can be pretty wild. Then you can charge back in. And usually the target's dead. Let me showcase that again. I'm gonna deplete ki once more. Alright, now let's go for the grapple. Then we'll use the Guardian Spirit Talisman. And Yatsu-no-Kami and charge up. Look at that, it's such a huge pressure play. Also with Aberrant Soldier, you can use it as a quick way to help you generate Amrita. So you can constantly charge. Here, let me showcase it against an enemy. So Aberrant Soldier, quick charge. Aberrant Soldier, quick charge. Of course, you can go in close range and then use Waira to kind of seal the deal when it comes to ki damage pressure. But yeah, this is a very powerful setup for Phantom. You have access to so much, it's ridiculous. Now, like I've said, when it comes to weapons, how do we mix with these two together? So Deadly Mark is a great initiator. Then if you don't remember from the weapon guide, you can sequence another ability right after Deadly Mark to kick some butt. You can also pull yourself in, provided I did it right. Transition into fists. Need to back out? You can always use Waira if you just need like a little mental reset of sorts. So while Fist is pretty much just going to be super close range, you have a little bit of leeway when it comes to Kusarigama. And now let me showcase some cool combos you might like to work with it. The Aberrant Soldier is your de facto quick cancel core, right? Fists on their own are pretty good against humans anyway. You don't really have to worry too much about them. Maybe I'll show this on Onryoki. You can do some pretty cool thematic things as well. So here, check this out. Deadly Mark and Second Wind. Don't do the follow-up. Throw Onryoki instead. It's gonna be pretty cool. Giant Toad is literally gonna be its own separate thing. You can do defensive drop into Kappa core. Yatsu-no-Kami, reckless charge. Take very little damage the entire time. Show it again against a human. Pull them towards you. Use Onryoki. Renegade Dragon does have a little bit of wonky tracking, so you need to pay attention to that. Anytime you're wary of long animation times, make sure you use Aberrant Soldier. Ignore the entirety of his burst attack. Come back up for the murder. So it can work really well to have avenues that can present quick cancel options in a variety of formats. I'm kind of just trying to show you what's possible. It's pretty brutal. Yeah, pretty much dead. And then I could go into Brute and try to show you Brute stuff real quick. So yeah, your weapons are going to be there for close range pressure. So do take advantage of that. Hey, what you doing? Get back up. Oh, you're already dead. So yeah, this whole package can be very interesting to work with. Your weapons, you gotta make sure you know how you work with them. Fists, as a reminder, it's important to know when to stop. Of course, you've got yokai abilities to facilitate, but don't obsess over stack generation. Use the soul cores to help complement perceived weaknesses you may have with this, and you'll go pretty far with it. It's a lot of fun, and you can squeeze out a ton of power. If you mix in any jutsu or anything in addition to all this, you'll kick some butt. Any case, think I've said enough. Let's just show what's possible. I will see you guys in a bit. Alrighty, gameplay showcase time. Now this setup is very, I would say, weapon dependent, which I like, but I want to show you the value of a couple of things. Timely guards really helps get my anima back. I'm being shot at by 2 archers, in which it would have been nice to have a Kappa, which is exactly what I do, so I don't have to worry about back damage. And anytime I need to get a quick anima generator, I can use things like Timely Guard to get a bunch. And right now, I'm just trying to take out these archers as quickly as I can, and Yatsu-no-Kami makes quick work of pretty much both of them. And so there's a lot of forward momentum that I have. Here, the Onibis are just a nuisance, so I'm going to clear them as quickly as I can. And yeah, they're always annoying. Alright, so let's see how I do with the Tesso, just using a lot of quick attacks that Kusarigama has. I unfortunately didn't get the burst counter there, but look at this. Deadly Mark into Giant Toad, which, while Giant Toad wasn't the most effective, it definitely allowed me to keep a lot of range going. So when you're using Giant Toad, make sure that you kind of use it as, I wouldn't say as a combo extender as much as like a finisher, so be very wary of that. But for the most part, you can see him using a lot of weapon-based play to kick some serious butt, and yeah, Tesso's done. So I didn't really depend too much upon my cores there. You don't necessarily have to, but Aberrant Soldier can present a great option here. High stance attack from the fists, the high stance strong can be ridiculous, and as you can see, coupling fist pressure with Yatsu-no-Kami is just, it's murder. It's straight up murder. So let's see what I'm going to try to do. First attack, Giant Toad, and you can see it really doesn't feel that effective, even though it has a stagger. Believe it or not, the high stance attack for the fists was actually more effective than Giant Toad. So again, make sure you're using Giant Toad at the proper time. It is a very situational ability, but very powerful. Now we're on to Purple White Tiger, which is quite tanky. Now, the one disappointment I had, and I'm sure this may not be a disappointment to anyone here, is just that my yokai shift stuff, which is soon coming, was so powerful that I quite literally couldn't take advantage of weapon play, which was a bit unfortunate. But yeah, it's just doing a lot of fist pressure moves, which are very valuable to do a lot of key damage. I haven't really gotten to the thick of soul cores yet. This would have been a perfect opportunity for me to have used Waira, but I did not. That was, again, one thing I wish I had done. But now it's just here, Giant Toad, perfect time to use it, a yokai who's out of key, and then now I transition to yokai shift, get a huge chunk of damage. I'm gonna do that, then I did Kappa, Atlas Bear, and then Giant Toad. Now one thing that was interesting is that White Tiger actually was hitting the Kappa shell, even though Giant Toad was up, so I actually didn't lose any gauge. And then using Brute Form to its fullest potential, and I'm switching forms yet again. Now here's one of those combos I believe I talked about early on. Senho'o, and then Yatsu-no-Kami, and then damn, look at all that pressure, dude! Just non-stop phantom pressure against a purity enemy. The Waira was just extra. I thought I needed to deplete more ki, but I could not have been more wrong. So Ho'o, use Yatsu-no-Kami, and then before the animation ends, input buffer, a jutsu, and then yeah, he's pretty much dead. And then a reproc confusion, it was ridiculous. So I was like, oh man, I wish I had a more lengthy showcase, but yeah, he's still dead, so you shouldn't have too much trouble. In any case, thank you guys for watching. I hope this custom lesson was helpful, and I will see you guys, wait for it, next time.